Chapter 36 Sneaker Pimps. Communicating through time was initially thought to be a complicated process. It had taken some of the greatest minds of the 23rd century to solve it. Quite ironically, once the problem had been properly defined, the solution had been ridiculously simple. The solution was drop boxes, physical places that exist, just like the safe houses, throughout time, fixed in physical space, never disturbed by buildings or destruction, always available to the right people, once the right people owned them. As most of sepulchre activities were to take place in the decades and centuries following the 20th century, the work Sebastian had done buying property and land had provided 97% of their temporal communication network. However, as always, there were some exceptions that needed to be handled carefully. But Barnaby had seen to this himself by making long-range time jumps into the past to sow the seeds of ownership for land in the early centuries AD, so that once the 17th, 18th, and 19th had rolled around, the mechanisms were already in place and waiting. How it worked was simpler again. A message from the sender in the past was written and left in a drop box at a predetermined location with the exact time it was being deposited. Receivers in the future, like temporal postmen, watch these boxes. If a message has been sent in the past, then as it was deposited in the past it would appear in the future. Such is the entanglement of space-time. The response, once composed, would be sent to the same drop box 10 seconds after the original was sent. In essence, it would simply appear moments after the request was sent. General instructions and updates were distributed in a similar way, but were simply sent to all drop boxes, waiting to be read. The message in this case was to inform Sebastian of the need to prepare the North African base for Barnaby's arrival. He was to be given every courtesy and allowed full access to the security system so he could try to identify what or whom had infiltrated the Greek dig site. A few seconds after depositing the message, the response appeared. Just as expected, it included a hand-signed note from Sebastian granting the permissions Barnaby would require once he landed. In the next 12 hours, Barnaby first traveled to Morocco before transferring to a sepulchre private helicopter for the trip to the North African base. Traveling in private aircraft was much more Barnaby's preference. Public transport always had one problem: the public and their frequent ability to either get in the way or ruin his day with their tardiness. After a couple of hours, the helicopter dropped into the North secret hangar and descended to the landing platform. Mustafa was waiting for him when he landed, a note from Sebastian in his hand. "Mr. Barnaby, sir, welcome to the base. I have Mr. Saller's instructions. When would you like to start?" "Thank you, Mustafa. I would like to wash and get a meal prior to starting my investigation. Would this be possible?" "Of course, sir. I will prepare a stateroom as your quarters and the chef will prepare a meal. Have you any preference?" "Anything but fish, thank you, Mustafa." "Yes, sir, as you wish." Waking after a good meal and sleep, Barnaby showered and dressed before making his way to the control room. "Good morning, sir," greeted Mustafa as Barnaby entered. "Good morning to you too, Mustafa. How are you?" replied Barnaby. "I am well, sir. How would you like to start your investigation?" "I think a review of video surveillance would be a good starting point." "As you wish, sir. At what point would you like to start?" "Please run the external videotapes from just before Mr. Saller's recent visit." Within 30 seconds the video was queued up and started to play. Barnaby sat and stared intently at the large video monitor. A timer counted the seconds as the mostly mundane footage retold the day-to-day activities of the base. The images showed nothing untoward. "Can we speed the playback up, please, Mustafa?" asked Barnaby. "As you wish, sir." Now it was the minutes rather than the seconds that rolled past. The people working moved in a comical manner that looked like the black and white silent films of the 1920s. Within a few seconds, Sebastian's helicopter could be seen descending into the secret entrance from several internal and external views. The rotors rapidly spun to a stop, and through cartoon funny actions Sebastian left the helicopter and quick-stepped to Mustafa. After talking briefly, they both comically exit the view. "Mustafa, did anything happen over the next few hours out of the norm?" asked Barnaby. Yes, sir, I demonstrated my drone design to Mr. Sollers, replied Mustafa proudly. Did that include any external activities? Yes, sir. Excellent, please locate this footage. As the drone first exited the building, it could be seen holding a position and staring off into the near distance. Has the drone its own cameras and security sensors, Mustafa? Yes, of course, sir, replied Mustafa. Show me these feeds too, please. On another monitor, the views from the drone appeared. Barnaby stared at the images. He could see spikes in the security sensors and using a joystick zoomed in on small section of dune. There is your problem, Mustafa, you had visitors. Were there any unauthorized visitors during this time period? Asked Barnaby. Yes, sir, there was an agent named Marco. I secured him in the UK to follow a couple of people who had raised some concerns in the UK. I say agent, but I think he may have been a buffoon, to be honest. What information did he have? None really. They had managed to give him the runaround for a few days in town, but he was positive that they had come into the desert. He may not have been as big an idiot as you think. I think he was correct. Your drone detected something in the desert but simply did not have good enough sensors to confirm it. This anecdotal information from Marco may point me in the direction I need to go. Please give me his contact details and organize a flight to the UK ASAP. Yes, sir, of course, sir.